Welcome to another episode of the Transforming Lives panel podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sharmin.
And I'm Mitzi, your other host.
And we are here today with another interesting topic. But before we continue, just join me in a grounding exercise by taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And when you take the next inhale, just hold it for a few seconds at the top. And as you exhale, let go of everything that did not serve you today. Take another deep breath in and out, in and out. And then join us back in the room. And thank you for joining, subscribing, downloading, and sharing. And today, our topic is the impact of social media. And Mitzi, what do you think about that topic?
Well, it is definitely one of those explosive topics. I think, like most things, there are two sides of the coin. And there are some really great things that have come out of social media. And there are some really horrible things that have come out of social media. Unfortunately, I think we are at that point right now where there's a lot more negative impact from social media than there is positive impact. I think we're seeing that society in general is becoming, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's all about me. And people are forgetting their humanity and their human connection, and that the best way to raise yourself up is to help others raise themselves up. It, to me at least, it feels like there is, as I say, everybody's trying to be, and I hate to use this as a reference, but the Kardashians, and look at me, I'm wonderful, I'm famous for no other reason. I don't, that's great. And I think we're seeing, on top of the social media aspect of things, the control and domination of the news sources and media, where what's happening is people are getting fed what the algorithms think they want to hear, and they're not getting fed any of the other stuff. And so facts are becoming harder to figure out what's the fact and what isn't. And people are just rewriting history at will, which I think is super, super scary.
Exactly. And I wouldn't touch on it, but the thought that people are rewriting history with AI, because if I create an AI, how I train it, that's the information the AI would be the output. But my concern with social media is the impact on mental health. I do not agree with parents who are exposing their children to social media, especially TikTok. I do not have TikTok because I realize that the people that are on TikTok every day, their attention span is TikTok attention span, because you can only hold their attention for maybe the longest 3 minutes. I was talking to someone and I said, "Oh, I'm reading this book." And their response was, "Reading a book? Who does that these days?" And I'm like, I understand we have TikTok brains. We can only hold our attention for 3 minutes. And anyone can do an experiment in your community, in your circle, and see how long persons can hold a conversation on one topic and not change the topic, because that's how they have rewired the neuroplasticity in their brain, because they're looking at something now and it's for 2 minutes or a couple of seconds, and then something else comes on, and it is impacting our mental health. And I don't think anyone is talking about that, especially for our adolescents. I have a great nephew who is 13, and I'm so grateful, and he's not allowed to have social media, right? You talk about the facts, and now we don't know what are true and what is false, right? And the Facebook creator says that he's going to remove the fact finding or fact verification from the platform. So now we're not able to decipher what is true, or is this fact, or is this fiction? And we are living in an exciting time with technology, but it's a scary time to be living.
I agree with you completely. And to your comment on mental health too, I think that, it's also affected by the fact that people are exposed to things they wouldn't have 40 to 50 years ago. And I'm not talking about, all the salacious stuff that's out there, because God knows there's tons of that, and that's a huge factor as well. But I'm talking about even just sort of seeing, quote, how the other half lives. It's being thrown in everybody's face, these few extremely wealthy people and what they're showing off. And it used to be, if you grew up in a town, you sort of knew what was going on there, and you found out about the world a little bit from your news, but you weren't always having it kind of thrown in your face about the uber wealthy. And I think that, as you say, can be very stressing on mental health, because everybody's trying to, achieve this, and it's not achievable for everybody. And the whole issue of cyberbullying, right? People feel empowered to say things to someone in a social media setting that they would never say to them face to face,
That's
right?
so true.
Just like, who would go over? Can you imagine when we were growing up, if somebody came over to you and said, "Hey, here's a plate of my food. Look what I'm eating for dinner tonight. Isn't it wonderful? Take a look at it." Like, you'd think they were absolutely insane, but you see that posted on social media all the time, right? Like, stuff like that. Like, it's just, yeah, I don't think that it brings about a healthy environment for a lot of reasons.
I totally agree. I saw a study somewhere that said that social media is impacting adolescents' mental health. They're seeing a rise in anxiety. There is a rise in depression, increase in low self-esteem, because now, I was showing my relatives a celebrity daughter, and I said, let me show you this. When she was young, the shape of her nose, and now she is an adolescent, the shape of her nose has changed. And if you're exposing adolescents to that kind of perfection, and they may not be able to get some enhancements done, and they can become depressed. They might not be able to afford the clothing that their peers might be wearing on social media. And there is a filter that you can use so you can look perfect or almost perfect. I place myself at age 13, and I don't know how I would have handled all of the competition on social media, especially for those that are not privileged. And they're
That's a huge point.
yeah, yeah. They're not privileged to and lack the resources to um to compete. So it impacts their mental health. I remember a few years ago supervising a staff who was suicidal. And while speaking to her, I asked her, what's wrong? And so the impact of social media, she said to me, my school friends, they're going on trips, they have this and they're that. And she was listing the things that she had seen on social media. And I said to her, but you don't know if it's true. You don't know. My mother always taught me that what you someone is showing you, you don't know if it's the real thing and you don't know what they did to get it. So I shared that with her. But her peers were going on trips, promoting a lifestyle on social media that she couldn't afford at that time. And that impacted her. And there were other factors that she wanted to take her life. And I'm sure there are many like her who's impacted by some things that are not true. Because, I can borrow money and go on a trip and flaunt it on social media, but no one knows that I borrowed the money to go on the trip and I'll be struggling to pay back that money. But it's the impact of what is being shown. And I find that women are losing their morals, their dignity, just to become popular on TikTok. Because sometimes some videos may cross your feed. And I ask myself, why would she be doing this? Or why would he be doing this? And it's just because of the likes, and you can be paid according to your followership and I guess how many likes and shares you get. So despite social media has connected us, we can be talking to someone that is on the other side of the world. It has stripped us from our identities. Some women are demeaning themselves for popularity.
Yeah, that's so very true. I mean, you see a lot of it. They sort of think it's maybe the quickest, easiest way to get some money is to do something that 10 years from now, they're going to look back and say, ooh, if I could go back and change that, I would, except for you can't, because now it's on the internet forever and it's going around and it's never coming down. And, when you were talking about your 13-year-old self, I sort of, in my mind went back to my childhood. And, I felt like an ugly duckling through grade school, and I got teased, and, it was a hard time for me. And then in grade 7, all of a sudden I started to develop into grade 5, and then the same people who had teased me and were mean to me, all of a sudden, were asking me out on dates and things like that. And I remember at the time thinking, you just you were so horrible to me last year. Like what? But when I sit there and I think about all of that emotion, the pressure, and how many times I was crying at home, and I put that in the context of what it would be like today with all of the social media and everybody one-upping and showing you all the things that they bought and everything. I mean, so much harder for kids today than it was for us. And it's great that there's more information that's shared, and it's wonderful that, for example, our podcast, it can reach people that otherwise couldn't get information. And so there's a lot of good things that have come out too. But the loss of that social.
Also, the comparison, the body image, where persons are comparing themselves to each other, and the body shaming, you know, social media has impacted us tremendously.
Um, but yeah, the pressure of seeing and being exposed to lifestyles of the rich and famous every day being thrown in everybody's face, and seeing people who have full-time trainers and this and that, and trying to compare yourself to them, right? Like, I mean, it just adds so much pressure for not just kids, for adults as well.
Mhm.
It's that constant pressure. I think that there's a lot of people who feel like I'm not enough because everything around them is showing so many different options and possibilities, and there's so much FOMO, that fear of missing out. I mean, I notice it with myself, right? My weakness is I end up buying way too many courses and trying to learn things, and so because I have a love of learning. But I mean, I kid you not, I mean, I probably have 1,000 books, and I've probably read 1,000 books, but I also probably have 300 or 400 courses, of which some of them I've finished all the way through, and there's lots of them that are only partially finished. But it's my addiction, because that whole FOMO, like, I know that that's one of my weaknesses.
And you're so right, because one of the impact of social media is addiction, right? And it might not be addiction to substances, but it might be an addiction to learn more. I need to learn more. So I'm going to purchase all these courses so that I can be up to date with everything that is happening. Impact of cyberbullying. You mentioned, we touched on it earlier in on the show. I read comments under some posts, and I ask myself that same question. If this commenter was in that person's presence, would they have said that? Would they have been so demeaning, nasty, so degrading? And oftentimes I don't know, because I think social media has also emboldened a lot of people. I call them keyboard bullies. I think also it's a lot of what that individual is experiencing themselves, because I can't give you what I don't have. So if I am a bully, maybe that person was bullied. The dynamics, so complicated,
Yeah,
and
totally. And also, I think the other thing is the loss of the traditional news, where you had, and I wasn't around for this, so, like, I'm not dating myself here, but I'm familiar with the name. But like, people would reference, a guy like Walter Cronkite, right? Like, he gave you the information and left it for people to make their assessment, but it wasn't trying to sway you to one position or another, or only give you partial facts so that you'd form a bad decision. It would be like, here are all of the facts, and then you make up your decision. But when the changes were made about, I think it was 25, 30 years ago, where it allowed the media to be either right wing or left wing and only focus on that, it became, as I say, where people get fed what they think that they want to hear, and they don't see the other side. And so they don't learn to have empathy or to walk in anyone else's shoes or to see things from the other side, because it's hidden from them, and they're told that it's, you know, evil and bad, and it's only served up. And you can test it for yourself. Anybody, I encourage you, go on to your Facebook, go on to your TikTok, whatever. Look up something never in a million years that you'd have an interest in, something really bizarre and crazy, and do a few searches on that. And all of a sudden you'll see your feed is filled with more and more and more and more of that, because the algorithm says, oh, this person likes this, and so let's keep feeding them this. And then all of a sudden, right? So it just, that in and of itself can demonstrate you just how nefarious and hidden all of it is to take people on a path that they think they're making an informed decision, but they really aren't.
That is so true. You know what also? Their families are in the homes, and you might be at the dinner table and everyone is on their phones. And there is this fear of missing out. I don't want to miss out what's on social media. So despite I am around persons that I love, persons who care for me, I don't want to miss out. So I'm on my phone, neglecting the interaction, the personal connection. I usually tell my clients, encourage them to have family time, even if it's just once a week. And during that time, have a basket. And when everyone entered the dining room, all phones, all iPads, drop into that basket. It's time for us to interact. Play a board game. Find out, how was your week? How are you doing? We don't do those things anymore.
Yeah, family game night, right? Like we used to play cards or different games and things like that. You don't see that going on. And your point about that, I heard somebody say that the advent of Facebook and us having our phones and everything all the time is that it's brought us closer to people who we love and care away that are far away, but it's taken us farther away from the people that are right in front of us.
Yes.
Which is exactly your point. It's like you're sitting with somebody right across from you, and instead of having a conversation with them, each person's on their phone looking and doing their own thing. It's like, no, connect with each other, be in the moment. But people are losing the skill and the ability to focus. And it's funny, I noticed it myself the other day. I was sitting there and I was watching something on TV. I don't even remember what it was at this point. But within a few minutes, I was thinking, picking up my phone and playing a game and everything. And it's like, oh my God, like I can't even focus on a half-hour TV show for a half an hour without kind of wandering off and getting distracted to do something, because that's, as you say, that's that sort of TikTok, social media, constantly little bursts of things to be done. And we have to retrain ourselves to focus again.
I totally agree, because for me, if I am going upstairs to cook or do anything, I leave my phone downstairs. And it might be for 3 hours, it might be for 4 hours. And someone may be calling my mom, my sister, where is Sharmin? I'm calling her phone and I'm not getting her. And now it's like a running joke. She left it downstairs. And I willfully do that in order to create a separation from the constant scrolling. Because I found that if I want to focus, I'm just able to read half of an article or half of a page. And then I want to think about something else or do something else. And that's how social media has trained us. And we have trained our brains to operate like that. So I am trying to retrain my brain because I love to read and I don't read anymore. I may read an article. I force myself to read an article in the mornings, but honestly, I don't get through it to the end.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, I still read, but I definitely notice that, like I say, like I get distracted, or I won't read as long as I used to, or and to your point too, is the other challenge with everybody having a phone with them all the time is everybody expects everybody to be immediately responsive to them. Like, I've had real estate clients call me at 2 o'clock in the morning because they thought of something and they wanted to do it. And I'm like, and of course I didn't answer my phone because I didn't have my phone anywhere near me. I don't keep it with me. From 9 o'clock at night till 9 o'clock in the morning, it's on do not disturb. But this client, they were furious at with me, and the next morning that I didn't pick up the call, I'm like, I'm sorry. When did you think my helping you buy a home meant that you could call me at 2 o'clock in the morning because you had an idea? Like, that's abusive. That is not a reasonable expectation of somebody. And it's the same thing with employers. Employers, send their staff a notice on the weekend and they expect them to answer them right away. It's like, no, that's their time. Sometimes I'll send my virtual assistant a note or something on the weekend, and I've told her many times before, but even if I happen to remember something and I don't want to forget it, so I send it to her, I put in it, I'm not expecting you to respond to this right now. I'm just trying to remember to give you the information, so I'm sending it to you now, but I do not expect you to respond to me until Monday. But lots of employers expect their employees to be answering them 24/7 because they have a cell phone and they have email, and they should be. But we all need the ability to unplug and to just think, and to not have TV or music or media or anything in front of us all the time. You need to give yourself space to think. I think
Mhm.
nowadays the only time people get space to think is either when they're in the shower or they're playing with a friend.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And you know what, also? That social isolation, the impact of social media, where we're socially disconnected. And because we think we're on social media and we're connected via all of these social media platforms, it's enough for us. And especially if you're working from home, right? Oh, I don't need to go anywhere. We just need to return to some of the practices that our parents did. Like have tea with your girlfriends every week or something to strengthen your social connection, and have a day where you have no social media. I mean, I post motivational every morning on my social media, but on Saturdays, I don't do it. I stay off of social media on Saturdays.
Yeah. I challenge and encourage everyone who's listening to have a day once a week where you unplug social media and actually go out and live life without taking a picture of it, without posting it, but just being in the moment and connecting with people. And I think that if people go back to doing that, they'll realize just how wonderful that is. Right. And as I say, I use social media. I love the fact I've reconnected with people that I lost touch with, and I'm so happy that it's there and I've been able to reconnect with them, and it's been wonderful, and we stay in touch. But as I say, as many wonderful things as there are, there's a lot of things that are not so wonderful. And I think it's all too easy for people to fool themselves into not realizing that there is that negative impact there as well.
Great. In closing, I would like to encourage our listeners to have adolescents in your home. Pay attention to them. Also, help them to unplug. Create family time, create moments in your home where no electronics are allowed. Play Scrabble, categories, chess, Chinese checkers, play some cards. Let's get back to the basics where use the resources that once held us connected socially. It is so important because we are losing our sense of self, our sense of identity, and we're allowing social media to take all of that away from us.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so everybody, we'd love to hear from you when you take your day, what your experience was like. And you know what? Maybe make it a weekly event. Give it a try. I think you'll really find that you enjoy when you give yourself that chance and you go back to doing that, how much more connected you will feel with your family, with your friends, if you really take that time and be in the moment.
Thank you, and so long until next episode.